Hi, everybody. Andrew Champagne here alongside JD Fox for this week's edition of Champagne and JD. Off last week, back this week, and back with a very special guest that needs no introduction. But JD, you know what I'm going to do?
You're going to
I'm going to
introduce him anyway.
skewer him a little bit, okay? So this guy here, one of my closest friends in horse racing, we live fairly close to each other up here in the Bay Area. We did a little mini handicapping contest over on Saturday, and we had a gentleman's wager on it in the form of one post-pandemic reasonably priced meal. And our guest this week, one Matt Dinerman, the track announcer at Golden Gate Fields, hit the board in 10 of 12 races at Tampa Bay Downs. 10 of 12. You couldn't have done that against somebody else, Matt. You had to do it against me.
You know, when the big money's on the line against some tough company, I show up to play, my friend. So, I know you want to take me to McDonald's, but there's a place called Wendy's that the burgers are a little better quality, a little more expensive. I might have to think about going there instead, but I'll surprise you.
Hot take, actually, the grilled chicken sandwich at Wendy's, best thing on the menu as far as like non-dessert options. I'm not going against Frosties, but I'm just saying the grilled chicken sandwich is something pretty good. On a serious note, we are delighted to have Matt with us this week on the show. Matt, welcome, buddy.
It's great to be on with you, Andrew and J.D. And really just every week in racing, there's something fun. And luckily in our neck of the woods here in Northern California, we've got a fun Saturday in the store and we'll be talking about it. So thanks for having me. Really happy to be here.
It's our pleasure. Golden Gate Fields has had a pretty eventful past couple of months. Of course, those that have been following the Northern California circuit and California in general know that Golden Gate Fields had to pause for a while due to a COVID-19 related situation. However, racing got back on track a couple of weeks ago, and this Saturday, the first big day since the resumption of racing. Matt, tell us a little bit about what the atmosphere is like on the track.
The atmosphere, is very upbeat, I would say. I think that when you're off for 2 months, as much as we were, especially for the horsemen, it's really hard on them. Our management was working really hard to make sure that everybody was safe, property was safe. And once we came back and running, we were ready to go. And I can tell you that since we started up, really, everybody's just delighted to be back running, including myself. And it's like any other business during the COVID-19 pandemic, really. Whether you're pretty even, whether you were going up when COVID hit, a lot of businesses took a little bit of a crash there, or at the very least, they stepped backwards a couple steps. And, we saw a little bit of a regression in terms of just how many horses are on the backstretch. A few of them went to other tracks, and they're there right now. But that's just the nature of the beast here. So we're just really happy to be back. And, we're doing the best we can to put out the best cards we can. And the horsemen are all really happy to be back. And the horses are safe and happy and healthy to be running. And I'm happy to be able to tell the story of the races still. So just really happy to be back. I think that's general sentiment of the entire racetrack here.
Yeah, it was important to get back some of the momentum that you guys picked up in 2020 with endeavors like the Golden Hour Pick 4 and the Golden Hour Double, big wagers that bring in the audience from Southern California and really produce some exciting results and some very, very friendly win totals for cashing in either of those wagers.
And one thing that's really cool about it is you get lower takeout, and I like that they raise the minimum on that, and it just produces overlay payouts. And it's pretty competitive. I mean, Santa Anita and Golden Gate Fields, the racing offices, when they make those sequences, they make sure to put some good competitive races and typically pretty good quality too. And overall, it just becomes a really good daily double pick for those two really good bets.
You mentioned the quality of racing at Golden Gate Fields, and Saturday's card is a good one. The feature race, a race on the road to the Kentucky Derby, the El Camino Real Derby for 3-year-olds going 1 mile and an eighth. That's not a typo, 1 mile and an eighth race in February of the 3-year-old year. We've got a field of 9 signed on, a number of horses shipping up from Southern California, including the 8-5 morning line favorite Rombauer.
Yeah, Rombauer, interesting story in that obviously was going to go at Santa Anita, and it sounded like it was an owner decision. It was not Mike McCarthy making that call. It sounded like it was John and Diane Fradkin who said, hey, we're going to ship this horse up north and run in the El Camino Real. And just, having a quality, obviously a quality field, but having a horse that was kind of a sneaky wise guy play in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile with a lot of potential, making the 3-year-old debut at Golden Gate Field should be very exciting to see that horse hit the track.
We're actually really excited to have him up here. And JD, it's interesting that you talked about the owner decision there, because I actually spoke with trainer Michael McCarthy for the news and notes. And he relayed to me, the owner called and said, let's take a shot up north. And we're happy to do it. He said, really, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, the one probably main concern is off a layoff. He's going 1.1 1/8. He's not going a mile, so he needs to make sure Rombauer is really fit. But Michael indicating to me that he really does think he's fit and ready to run a good race. And he's a very classy horse. And Michael, one of the quotes that really was interesting when talking to him was he said, listen, he used to be the assistant trainer to Todd Pletcher, one of the top assistants for him. He said, I've been around a lot of nice horses, and I really believe this horse fits the bill. So to say something like that gives me a lot of confidence. Not only is this horse going to be competitive even off a layoff, but you're looking at a horse that probably Michael is very optimistic can improve over time. And that's what we want to see, especially when we have horses that are in their 3-year-old years, because even after the Triple Crown races, you've still got the Travers. You've still got some interesting races before the Breeders' Cup. So he'll be a fun horse to watch and keep track of.
I'm happy you mentioned trainer Michael McCarthy because, yes, he was a former assistant to Todd Pletcher. That's how a lot of people know him. But Michael McCarthy can flat out train a racehorse. He was the conditioner for City of Light, the runaway winner of the Pegasus World Cup just a couple of years ago. However, while Rombauer is the favorite, it's not a one-horse race, I think. There are a couple of horses in here that are going to take some money. And, JD, you in particular, without giving away too much, you're attracted to one of the potential wise guy horses, a filly going against the boys.
Yeah, Javanica, you look at, obviously this horse is already well-traveled, and I like to factor that in terms of the level of competition and the difference in competition of racing on so many different circuits this early in the career. Obviously, broke the maiden at Arlington Park on the turf, then shipped to Woodbine faced a great field in the Glorious Song there, a nice $100,000 stake, and ran a bang-up second, and then shipped down to Southern California and tried the turf again in the Jimmy Durante, a nice second there, and a nice second at Santa Anita on New Year's Eve in the Blue Northern. So really, it's an interesting horse that is obviously going against the boys here, but I do think the quality of competition is maybe just a step above. And really, obviously, Rombauer, obviously, is, Breeders' Cup Juvenile, ran the American Pharoah. There is class there, but also class off a long layoff. Don't know if 1.1 1/8 Emla synthetic is necessarily what they want first up. Trying a new surface for the first time, trying the longest distance. But Javanica, a very interesting horse. And a horse, Andrew, also the 3-1 third choice in the morning line odds, a horse you like in Petruccio, coming off of a strong performance in the Los Alfuturity against a very tough field.
Yeah, Petruccio, I think, is a horse that has a real chance to love the synthetic main track at Golden Gate Fields. That is a huge variable, especially for horses shipping in from out of town, and this race has attracted a lot of them. Petruccio, trained by Hall of Famer Richard Mandella, a horse that seems to have gotten just a little bit better every single time he's run. 2 back, a nice maiden win at Del Mar. They tried Grade 2 company in the Los Alfuturity, was bet to 6-1 that day, so somebody thought he was setting on a pretty good race. And he ran third, being beaten 3.5 lengths by Spielberg. Now, I think the Connections made a wise move shipping up here as opposed to tackling the likes of Life is Good, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I also think he's got a real chance to love this synthetic main track, which can sometimes play like a turf course. I also love that he was gaining ground a little bit at the end of that 1 1/16 race. To me, the 1 1/8 distance should hit him right between the eyes.
It should. I mean, Petruccio, he is in this spot here, and like you said, I think it's probably a smart choice to say, hold on a second. Well, we might not have the top 3-year-old in California. We might not have a Bob Baffert type of monster here with Petruchio. What we do have is a solid horse with a solid pedigree that has some class. And remember, I think he ran on turf and did pretty well on it at one point. So he is in a spot where he'll probably like the track. You said Andrew is gaining a little ground. The into mischiefs, they don't want to go too far. I mean, but they can go a mile and an eighth. We saw Authentic go a mile and a quarter. He sort of outran his pedigree. And then Javanica, I just want to mention her, JD, because you brought her up. She has the recency. She's run against some nice fillies. I mean, she ran second to Fluffy Socks, who's a pretty nice filly from the Chad Brown barn. She's looking to become the second filly ever in the 40-year history of the El Camino Real Derby to win. And the only other filly to ever win the El Camino Real Derby was a few years ago with Paved. And guess who trained Paved? Michael McCarthy.
The green grass grows all around, all around. One other horse that I would like to mention that I almost used on my late pick 4 ticket that we'll get to in a little bit. I think there's a real chance number 1 Positivity could take to this surface at a really big price. Now, there's a chance Positivity is just a sprinter that's going way too far, but by Painter out of a City Zip mare, when you see City Zip in a pedigree, you think turf, you think synthetic. I think Positivity has a chance to at least hit the board at a big number for a trainer in Patty Gallagher that can sneak up and have a horse ready to run in a race like this. Do I think Positivity has what it takes to win necessarily? Maybe, maybe not, and that's why I didn't necessarily use that horse in the pick 4 ticket. But if you're looking for a horse to throw in underneath second or third in the exotics, maybe that's the way to go to attempt to extract some value out of this race, a race that is still a good betting race, but it certainly seems like the top 3 choices, there's a gap between those and the rest of the field from a standpoint of what kind of money they're going to take.
It sure looks that way. And I'll say this about Positivity and trainer Patty Gallagher, more so about him. Him and Michael McCarthy, we're talking about these two guys just being up here for a few years. These are probably the 2 trainers that send up horses to Northern California the most out of any of the Southern California trainers, and both of them have very, very strong numbers doing that. And I don't think it's just about the class level. You look at some of their horses and their speed figures are very much the same types of speed figures as the runners up here, but they put them in the right spots. When they run against horses up here, like I said, their speed figures in that level are very comparable, but they know what types of horses will enjoy the Tapeta and they know where they fit. So even if you've got a horse like Positivity who's a price, if Patty Gallagher is shipping him up here, I think it's a horse that you need to take a look at.
I think one other horse that I want to mention, and you talk about trainers that do well at Golden Gate, obviously Jamie Thomas, a great barn there. It's My House is interesting to me because I think by far the quickest horse in the field is, I think, a sprinter. I don't see a lot of distance in the pedigree, but if you want to have some fun, you can put some money on It's My House, because It's My House is probably going to be in front halfway, at least maybe more through this race, and could get really brave on the front end. Again, these are really young horses at this stage in their career. We're talking about February of the 3-year-old year, so we've seen stranger things happen. So you want to sometimes identify a horse that could be out front here, and I think It's My House is going to be given a loose lead in this race.
I think he will be given a loose lead, and it's interesting you mention him because on the top and the bottom side of the pedigree, he's got a ton of route pedigree. I mean, if you were to buy this horse at a sale, you would look at the page and you would say, okay, this horse probably wants a little distance. He's always been a very well-regarded horse, JD. People were talking about him before his first start, and he actually ran a pretty good second with a little bit of trouble in mid-stretch, comes back in his second start and wins off a little bit of a freshening. I talked to Jamie actually about this horse as well from the news and notes, and he told me, the owners want to take a shot. This is a very prestigious race here in the Bay Area. Jamie's a Northern California guy. The owners, they've been very supportive of Northern California racing, so it's a big deal, and they want to take a shot, and they said, you know what, he's come out of his maiden win really well, and he's going to be going to the lead, and he's going to give you a thrill for a little while. And like you said, you never know. Maybe he's going to stick around. It's a prestigious race. There's 10 Kentucky Derby points to the winner. And if you're Triple Crown nominated, you get an all-expenses-free berth into the Preakness. So you win this race, you could be going to big places and doing bigger things down the line, and you might as well take a shot. You only get one crack at it.
Based on a figure standpoint, It's My House certainly looks up against it. Having said that, Jamie Thomas is a 25% trainer. Billy Anton Georgi is one of the top speed jockeys on that circuit. It is not uncommon for Anton Georgi to get left alone on the lead, wondering, oh my goodness, where the heck is everybody else? And suddenly they're turning for home, and Anton Georgi's got a whole bunch of horse. Whether that's going to be enough for It's My House to get home against this kind of field, I'm not sure. But at 20-1, as opposed to like 3-1, 4-1, I don't hate that play as much as my initial eyebrow raising may have indicated when JD initially brought him up. So there's a lot of different directions you can go in. And that brings us to the late pick 4 on the Saturday program. The Saturday program is a 9-race card. First post time where the Bay comes to play is 12:45 p.m. Pacific time. Race number 6 kicks off the sequence. It's a 50-cent minimum, of course, and all three of us are going to have economical approaches to this sequence. That does not mean this sequence cannot pay. It is simply a matter of betting a little to win a lot, and we'll start things off with a 62.50 claiming event for horses going a mile. Fridays at Shady is the 2-1 morning line favorite. Not a heck of a lot good coming out of that last race, though, at this level. Going 5.5 furlongs, I grant you, but 2-1 on the morning line seems a little bit short. JD, who do you want to start off with here?
I am going to start with myself and I, because I think I have the strongest opinion here. I really want to see them catch King Eddie on the class drop. I think there's no speed like King Eddie. Now, King Eddie's been stopping, but King Eddie's been stopping against better. So this is kind of the full progression for King Eddie. If you look back, the connections claimed him for $8,000, had 3 straight wins, and then tried tougher. And now they're back at a sensible level with this horse, in for a lifetime low tag here. I really think this is King Eddie's race to lose. So I am going to go all in on King Eddie here up front, taking them coast to coast with Kyle Frey aboard. So I'm very simple here in leg 1. I think 2 is the only horse you need. And Andrew, you at least want to go one deeper?
I'm going to apologize in advance. At some point, I'm going to call King Eddie King Elliott. Hi, Pete Aiello. How you doing? Having said that, I liked King Eddie for the same reasons that you did. Speed against better. Also, second off a bit of a layoff. Probably needed that race a little bit. And Bill McLean, a very astute horseman, 22% with horses second off of similar layoffs per the Daily Racing Form, an ROI of $2.66. That's pretty darn good. Lots to like there. And I'm also going to throw in number 3, My Sunshine, who has hit the top 2 in 5 of his 6 starts over this surface. Takes a little bit of a jump in class, but gets a big trainer switch to the Reed France barn. I'm using the second and third choices in this race. Maybe Fridays at Shady improves with the stretch out and distance, but I got to tell you, Matt, looking at the drop in class last time out, there were warning signs that day, because this is a horse that had been competitive against 20 and 25,000 optional claiming types. If they had dropped the horse down to 12.5, maybe I wouldn't have been concerned. They dropped that horse down all the way to 62.50, and that horse didn't even go off favorite. Probably could have. Maybe a tough race for the level, given the horse Tanner's Pride, who won, has been around forever and has picked up a lot of checks. Having said that, though, do you really want to take this kind of a price on this kind of a horse when it may just be a case of the horse being off form?
We're all going against him here. JD, you, Andrew, I'm going against him. I mean, even though this horse is a router, 100% a router, he's better routing. He has run well sprinting in the past, though. Actually, the first time he ran sprinting as a gelding. He was a colt for a while. They gelded him. He won by 6 easily and at a very good speed figure. So the fact that this horse ran that poorly last time out to lose by double-digit lengths, he loves the Tapeta, so it's not the track. And even though he's a router, it's not because he's sprinting, because he can run well sprinting. So I think his form's just going in the wrong direction. I used the 2 runners that Andrew did and the single, JD with King Eddie. I think he's the speed of the speed. Do I think he's better on turf? Yes. I think he's a lot better on the grass, but he can run effectively on the Tapeta. He's lost a little confidence. It looked like he had really good form middle of last year. He's run some poor races. He's had a tough campaign throughout the year, but now he's dropping in a spot where he probably can be competitive My Sunshine's the top pick for me in the race. I think looking at what Andrew said, he loves the track. His form's really good, and there are a lot of horses in this race that have pretty inconsistent form. At least with him, you're getting a horse that looks like he'll get a really good stocking trip, and he has good form. So that's really the reason I made him the top pick. But 2 starts ago, My Sunshine lost to Little John by a nose, and even though Little John did improve significantly and will have to show to us that he can run that same type of race again, I figure he's 10-1 on the morning line. Will he go off of that? I doubt it. But if you like My Sunshine, why wouldn't you use Little John? So that's why I just went 3 deep here.
Fair enough. I mean, Little John, 10-1 on the morning line. Maybe even if he goes off 7 or 8-1, he'll probably pay bigger than that in the multi-race exotics. So can't fault you for including that one. We've all got pretty similar takes here in race number 6. That's going to change as we go on through this sequence. Our next stop, race number 7. This is an optional claiming event for older fillies and mares going a mile, just a field of 6. And in my opinion, it's actually a 1-horse race. And I may as well go first here, JD, if you don't object.
Nope, go for it.
Who goes with Sadie Bluegrass early? I can't find anybody. There are a couple of stalking types in here. My Bluebell I don't think is going to be too far off of it. Maybe Novella shows a little bit of early speed. Sadie Bluegrass is a very fast horse. This is a horse that 2 starts back was sitting just off of a 21-1 quarter mile. Now, the unknown here is if she wants to go 2 turns. However, just going off of her figures, I don't think she has to be the same horse she was going 5.5 or 6 furlongs in order to win this race. I think 85 to 90% of that effort will be good enough to win. Evan Ramon climbs aboard for Jonathan Wong. Those two have been enjoying a lot of success this meet. Sadie Bluegrass coming in second off the layoff. I liked the race last time out at Santa Anita, going 6.5 furlongs on the turf. She set a very fast pace, did everything but win that day, and just got run down by a half length. Actually stayed on pretty well to keep second money and give the winner a little bit of a challenge late. But this is a win type with 5 wins in 7 local starts, and I think she leads from flagfall to that's all. It's the 9-5 morning line favorite. She might get bet down a little bit off of that. It's not the sexiest single in the world, but with the way the rest of this pick 4, I think, will play out, I think you can play Sadie Bluegrass here and turn a 9-5 shot into 5-1, 6-1. It's not sexy, but the math checks out. So I'm singling number 2, Sadie Bluegrass, my best bet of the sequence.
And we saw a progression with race 6. I went first with the single, and then we had 2 horses and then 3 horses. So we're going to do the same thing here because, Matt, you're going too deep here in leg 2 of the pick 4.
I am going too deep, and I was originally going to do exactly what Andrew did, which was single Sadie Bluegrass. And he makes very, very good points. I mean,
it doesn't happen often.
Andrew makes very good points. And even though I beat him in this handicapping contest, he's a formidable foe. And, I respect his opinion very much, and I agree with him. There's no other speed in this race. That said, and we all know this, sprinting, routing, it's a very different ball game. It's going from playing checkers to playing chess. It's a different type of game. That's the real question. If she routes, she's probably good enough to win this race because she's a really nice filly and just an outstanding claim by Jonathan Wong. He claimed her for $12,500, and they have made a ton of money and taken a lot of winner's circle photos with her. But if for some reason, for whatever reason, just routing isn't her thing, then she might be vulnerable. In this type of situation, it's one of these weird deals because I sometimes have a hard time as a handicapper trying to formulate tickets. You look at a filly like her and you say, well, she either wins or you might as well press the all button because anybody else can win. But to keep my ticket costs down, I just used one runner that I really think is going in good form right now, Babe Didrikson, who, by the way, both of these runners were bred by Nick Alexander, and they are in new barns, and they've done very well for themselves, and Babe Didrikson really likes this track, comes off a win, and she defeated Go Big Blue Nation, a Southern California shipper who had pretty good form. So I think Babe Didrikson with that win under her belt, second start off a layoff for Jose Batista, who is very good. Second start off a break. He wins at about 40% from a small sample size. So I'm thinking that she's going to be ready to run well against a little bit tougher now. She was last seen at the first level allowance. I'm going to go just 2 deep here. Sadie Bluegrass and then Babe Didrikson from Off the Pace.
And if you like horses bred by Nick Alexander, you're going to love my ticket because I have all 3 of them that are in this race. As I'm gonna add the 3 getting sideways, I really do think, to agree with you guys, Sadie Bluegrass, speed of the speed here. Although Babe Didrikson does have some tactical speed that's been employed, occasionally, and really you've got to talk about, the Jose Bautista barn has been red hot to start this meet, so something you've got to keep an eye on there. Horse is in good form, but I think Getting Sideways is another horse that can pass and can go fast late, and really the last effort while losing by a length and a half, I mean, that was a much the best effort versus the rest of that field. Clock Strikes 12 was just a absolute monster for the class that day. So really Getting Sideways, I think, has a solid start, solid chance here, and Julian Couton will stay up. So I'm going 3 deep here, 2, 3, and 6. And Andrew, we're headed to the main event that we've talked about a little bit, but we have not discussed how we are going to play it. So again, we'll give you the full field for the El Camino Real Derby, all 9 horses. They have not changed from the field graphic earlier in the show. The same 9 horses are here, with Rombauer, the 8-5 morning line favorite for Michael McCarthy. We mentioned Javanica, the filly, for Ian Hardy, being ridden by Frank Alvarado, 5-2 second choice on the morning line, and Petruchio, the 3-1 third choice for Richard Mandela, with Irving Orozco up. A very interesting race, and I'm just going to go ahead and take it here, Andrew, because I really do like Javanica here, the filly going against the boys. And really what I'm looking at is, obviously I'm Woodbine biased. I'm a Woodbine handicapper through and through, but and Andrew's going to, Agree. And I'm waiting for the hanger to show up, considering this horse has finished second the last 3 times. But really, you look at that effort at Woodbine on the Tapeta against Super Sensational, and Super Sensational is, I think, a monster horse. I think the queen of this division, and probably your Triple Tiara favorite in Canada. And, you look at Super Sensational and what she did. She came down and ran in the Silver Bullet Day, finished second as a heavy favorite, but go back and watch that start. This horse likes to be on the lead, and that was an absolutely dreadful start. And Javanica had some excuses as well facing Super Sensational that day at Woodbine. Emma Jane Wilson did a good job getting Javanica out of early trouble. And really, I think the 2 efforts in the Jimmy Durante and then in the overnight, the Blue Northern, both solid efforts, obviously closing late. I do think this horse will benefit from the extra 1/8 of a mile, and I think is bred to go long. And I think really, Godolphin is wise in their decision making, and I think they see a lot of potential in this horse, and this is a great way for this horse to make a splash. And this was honestly, if they wanted to find this horse a good Tapeta race, this was the best that you're probably going to see for the next 6 weeks. So you might as well take the shot here against the boys. I am singling Javanica here in the late pick 4. Andrew, have you recovered enough to speak about the race?
True patriot love in all thy sons. You get it. Anyway, I get why you like Javanica. A lot of respect for Javanica. A lot of respect. Now, I'm going to challenge her a little bit in here, because just looking at the figures here, she's about 10 points behind Rombauer. And maybe Rombauer regresses a little bit off of a layoff. We don't know how he's going to react to the synthetic surface. Having said that, looking at the recent workouts, I think he's sitting on go. Just the last 2 works at Santa Anita are big, big, big works. I think he's definitely the horse to beat. Sire Twirling Candy can throw a horse with a turf hoof. I think Rombauer will have no problem with the synthetic surface given his pedigree. He's my top selection. I'm going to use Petruchio as well. I may have called him Petruchio earlier. Petruchio, tomato, whatever. Having said that, this is a horse that was very good 2 starts ago, breaking the maiden on grass. franked that form when third in the Grade 2 Los Al Futurity behind Spielberg. And there's no denying Richard Mandela can get a horse ready to run and work backwards just as well as anybody. So I'll go 5-9 in here. Again, if you're looking for a price, maybe Positivity clunks up for a share at a big number from the rail, but I'm going too deep. Javonica, understand where you're coming from, JD. I just prefer others in here. Matt, your thoughts?
Well, either JD or I are getting knocked out. We're not all going to hit
Heater.
We're not all hitting this pick 4. And if I don't hit it, I hope JD does, of course. And Andrew, I hope you do as well. But I had to single Rombauer. It's not a creative single. I just needed to find a single, and I said to myself, I would rather single a horse that at least is proven to be a really nice horse over a runner that we don't know if she can route yet. She's trying something new. Rombauer, even though, yes, he hasn't run a mile and eighth yet, he's not trying something new. He is coming off a layoff, but I just think he's the best horse in the race, plain and simple. I think he's really going to like the Tapeta. I think those 2 works really suggest that you talked about, Andrew, big works over the track. He's ready. Michael McCarthy, he is going to have this horse as fit as possible. From a pace scenario standpoint, it'll get interesting because he's a type of horse that is not this tactical sort of horse that you can pretty much put him anywhere, even if the pace is slow. He takes his time. He's not a deep closer, but he's sort of a mid-pack type, unless if the pace is just ridiculously fast, like in the Breeders' Cup where he was 15 lengths behind. That won't happen this time, though. He's a horse that likes to get himself in a spot, get in a nice, good rhythm, and then power home. That's what he wants to do. I think it'll set up for his style based on the track and how it's been playing as of the day. We saw a lot of horses that were coming from out of it on Thursday of this recording, so I'm thinking we'll probably see the same Friday and Saturday. And I think he's the fastest and the best horse. So I'm just going to say, you know what, let's take a stand. I will say, though, in the pick 6 I'm going to give out on Saturday on air, Javonica and Petruchio will 100% be on the ticket. Just for this ticket's sake, I had to take a stand, and that's what I'm going to do.
Right, that's for sure. And I think in a sequence like this, you need to take a stand somewhere. Again, we're not saying that this sequence is going to pay squat. We think that this has the potential to pay pretty well. It's just a matter of taking an economical approach to this sequence. And that holds true in the finale as well. This is a 5.5 furlong claiming event that I think houses a very beatable favorite. We've got a field of 7 signed on for this one. The favorite in your program is number 4, RMC Hookem, who has not run since September, drops back into the claiming ranks after running second against a starter allowance group, was probably eligible to face better horses, and would have gotten support at the windows. I think the drop back in for a claiming tag is very curious, guys.
JD, I'll let you go first. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I do kind of agree here that it doesn't seem to make a ton of sense at face value. I see this race a little differently than you guys, so I think I might as well lead off here. I'm going 4 deep, 1, 3, 4, 7, and really the horse I want to talk about is Exclusive Speaker. And you're probably asking, why am I talking about Exclusive Speaker? Well, I mean, this is a horse that has run its best 2 races at Pleasanton. That's not a Tapeta surface. But what we have seen in that first race of 2021 was, I mean, it was enough for me to just get the light bulb thinking that a drop in class with that 5.5 on the Tapeta surface, I think this horse can pass horses late. I don't think it necessarily got in the spot that it wanted to be, started a little slow, and that's tough because Anton Georgi obviously is one of the best gate riders. So having a horse that just, for whatever reason, didn't particularly break well, when this horse is running well, it breaks on top. And this horse had some good efforts while still a maiden at Golden Gate over sprint distances on this surface. I think a wake up and a start to the 4-year-old campaign is a different Exclusive Speaker. And I think Exclusive Speaker is worth a shot here at 8-1 morning line. My top selection in the race is actually going to be the one Whoa Buddy. And I think Whoa Buddy, again, another horse, this will sound very similar. Not on the best surface. I think this is a very good turf sprinter, and we've seen a lot of success on the turf for this horse, now 7 years old, the gelding. But again, it was a interesting ride in that it was a horse that was kind of missed the break with Anton Georgi up, and Anton Georgi will be up on Saturday. I think another better break. I really honestly think 1-7 might be 2 of the top 3 horses in this field. I could be completely wrong and crazy, and I think you guys will prove that. But I'm going 4 deep here, 1, 3, 4, 7. I have kind of an outside opinion. Matt, you've got a bit of a differing opinion here, as you do include exclusive speaker, but do not include my top choice, Whoa Buddy, here.
No, and I just looked at Whoa Buddy and not trying to knock your pick because you do make some good opinions there. And he's a good horse, and he's always right there at the wire. I mean, he always outruns his odds. He never gets bet, and he always outruns his odds. But the only thing with him was that he just doesn't win that often. I mean, he's 1 for 21 on the Tapeta, 3 for 40 with 12 other in the money finishes. So he's got to sort of get that oomph to win. But he's a good horse, and I agree with each of you to spread in this race. Because knowing the circuit, this is a very competitive race. I lean towards number 3, Miss Super Saint, coming off a very long layoff for trainer Steve Speck. It's a risk to play a mare like this because she's 7 now. She took a long time off. We don't know what we've got with her coming back, but she has some real solid works on the page for a trainer that doesn't necessarily get him to speed around there in the mornings. And I think Steve is not only a good horseman, but he spots him in the right spots. And maybe he's just saying, look, she just broke her maiden a while ago, and then she finally won an allowance race. You know, she's not ready for that second level allowance. She's just not ready for it. She's not good enough. So let's put her into a spot where she can run well. She's not in for 12.5. She's not in for 8. She's in for 20, which is here at Golden Gate, pretty high-level claimers. And I think that she'll probably be ready to run well off the layoff for Steve, who's just having a fantastic meet so far, and everything is firing. I think it is interesting that Frank Alvarado opts to ride number 2 Unbridled Sky because he's pretty much got the lay of the land with that barn. He pretty much decides what type of horse he wants to ride in a twosome there. But I'm trying to beat RMC Hookem. I agree. I think him in for a tag is a little suspicious. He's still eligible for that starter condition, but trainer Jack Steiner's a good horseman. I'm using both of the spec horses, Unbridled Sky and Miss Super Saint. I am using exclusive speaker because I think he's a horse that his speed figures indicate he actually can be okay on synthetic. He just hasn't won on it. And number 5, Don't Tease the Tiger for the Jonathan Wong barn. Another one like Miss Super Saint coming off a decent layoff here. And this horse has run okay against runners who at the time had really good form. So if Jonathan's got him fit, he's got a number of bullet works on the page, he should be ready to go. So I'm going to spread.
Yeah, and those of you who saw my reaction to Matt's ticket, take a look at the horses. That's why. We went 4 deep, and we used the exact same 4 horses.
Yeah.
My top selection is actually the last horse you mentioned, Matt, and that's Don't Tease the Tiger, who is the beneficiary of one of my favorite rules in racing, looking at the program. So this is a claiming event, right? Find me the claiming price next to Don't Tease the Tiger.
There isn't one.
He is protected by virtue of the connections, taking the 1 free shot that California racing rules allow. I love that rule, and I love barns that take advantage of it because that, to me, indicates some real confidence. And then you look at the work tab. This horse has been lighting it up in the mornings for Jonathan Wong, several bullets ahead of his return to the races as a 5-year-old, and he's run pretty well at this level in the past. That second-place finish against Similar Two-Back, yes, it was in March of last year, but if that horse repeats that effort in this race, I think he wins. Don't Tease the Tiger, 3-1 on the morning line, second choice. You mentioned that Steve Speck trains both number 2 Unbridled Sky and number 3 Miss Super Saint. I think that's very curious, and I think Unbridled Sky may well come down off of that 5-1 morning line price. I had to use them both because the Steve Speck barn has been firing on all cylinders. 10 for 28 as of this recording with 19 in the money finishes. It's a good time to be Steve Speck right now. And I'm also going to use exclusive speaker who I think JD thought, I'm going to be creative. I'm going to use a horse that neither Andrew nor Matt are going to use. Ha, ha, ha. Oh. Exclusive speaker goes second off a layoff. I think he may have needed the race last time out, takes a necessary drop in class, graduated from the maiden special weight ranks this past summer at Pleasanton, and has been running against Allowance, an optional claiming company ever since. This seems like the right level. Monroy has had a bit of a cold stretch of late at Golden Gate Fields, but I think he's a very good rider, and I think he's due to get going sooner rather than later. 2, 3, 5, and 7 for me in the last at Golden Gate Fields. You're not seeing things. This is an $8 ticket from yours truly. And look, we're all trying to take economical approaches to this sequence. If you want to play for more money, hit the repeat button. That's what it's there for. And I'm hoping we get some value out of Sadie Bluegrass, my best bet of the afternoon at Golden Gate Fields, who may well be even money. Here's hoping we get 6-1, 7-1, 8-1 by constructing this pick 4 ticket in this way. JD and Matt each have their singles. We'll be tweeting those tickets out on Saturday, and you can take a look right in here as our fearless technical wizard JD cycles through down below in the corner. Yes, Matt, I do the exact same thing, and I've been on the show for a year. I'm just
a really bad idea. Instead of hitting the repeat button, you can just play all of our tickets for $26. I mean, come on. Just do it.
I'm sure there's somebody out there who will go to great pains to say how terrible of an idea that is from a bankroll standpoint. Because horse racing Twitter never complains about anything.
Especially about me and my handicapping.
And ticket construction. Anyway, on that note, we're going to segue into our final thoughts segment. And both JD and I have a couple of things that we'd like to say. But first, we're going to leave the floor to Matt Dinerman, one of the good guys in all of horse racing. Matt, anything you'd like to promote, the floor is yours. And if you'd like to make it really vitriolic and just shove the good guy in racing back into my face, by all means, go ahead.
I have one final thought, and this might be one of the most boring final thoughts, but it's good advice. When life gives you lemons, don't try to make orange juice. And that is my final thought. Listen. There have been a lot of people trying to do too much these days. So when life gives you lemons, don't try to make orange juice. Make the lemonade. Stay positive.
Is that like when you come to a fork in the road, take it?
When you come to a fork in the road, don't try to drink it with a spoon.
You know, there actually is a big, gigantic fork in the road in Milan, New York, near where I grew up. I always found it hysterical.
Like a giant, like where you could like eat salad or whatever.
No, where you could go left or right. Someone legitimately built like this 10, 15-foot high fork structure and just stuck it in the middle of, you know, where you could go either left or right.
Wow. Well, I would go left because I'm a left-hander. But I think, you know, the final thought for me, promoting happiness. It's been a rough time for a lot of us, no matter what industry we're in. Just keep your head up. We're going in the right direction here, and just keep living the dream, which is what I try to do. And if you're not feeling that way, you're going to get there. There's light at the end of the tunnel. So I wish I had better final thoughts, but they're positive final thoughts.
That last one's really good, and it's a message that I think some people need to hear.
And you know, speaking of New York and speaking of positivity, I'll be really positive after race 1 at Aqueduct on Saturday because I've got a winner. I've got a tip for you, Andrew.
Ooh,
okay.
It's the one horse in the $25,000 New York claiming event going 6 furlongs, Kosciuszko.
Kosciuszko. It's pronounced Kosciuszko.
See, Matt, the joke is the Australian pronunciation is Kosciuszko for their big race, and that's not the Polish pronunciation, which Andrew will continue to hammer on this show, and that's called a joke, and that is called playing to an audience of one. My real final thought is obviously a lot of talk going on in the horse racing world about historic horse racing and Kentucky and getting all that. I just wanted to kind of throw in that Senate Bill 1794 in the state of Arizona was brought into being this week, and that's to do the same thing for the state of Arizona. Obviously, with Kentucky, it's to keep it going and really to keep, you know, Red Mile and Kentucky Downs and Turfway Park really rely upon those machines for their purse structure. So that's very important, but Arizona's trying to do the same thing, so while you're supporting that, take a look at SaveArizonaHorseRacing.com. They've got some good facts and information on that, and if you happen to be in the state of Arizona and be a horse racing fan, which I know that's a limited audience there, be sure to contact your legislator on that and we got to do some positive things in horse racing, and right now, any way we can get purse structures and make the lives better for those on the backside, we've got to do it. So, Andrew, I kind of set up a softball for you to give a hot take, since I did not have one.
Well, first of all, I'm going to offer a congratulatory note to a friend of this program, somebody that appeared on our show last year. Gary Contessa is getting back into training, and turf riders everywhere are rejoicing. For those who missed the news last week, Gary Contessa will be employed as a private trainer based at Delaware Park. I'm stoked for this. This guy, he's a tremendous horseman, a really good guy, and a straight shooter. He was one of the horsemen who, when there were restrictions that were proposed as far as H-1B visas, was correctly pointing out no one in America wants the kinds of jobs that immigrants in horse racing do, and do for long days, long weeks, long months, long meets, whatever. This is a guy that knows what's going on, and the game is better with him in it. So I am incredibly pumped that he's back. Looking forward to betting on some of his horses in the near future. All right, here comes the deep water. So a couple of days ago on Twitter, there was an all-time bottom 5 horse racing Twitter take. Now, if you're on horse racing Twitter, you know there are a lot of bad takes that are put out there every day, whether it's a bad tip, whether it's a poorly formulated opinion, whatever. It's the beauty of horse racing Twitter sometimes, all the personalities you see and you deal with, and sometimes positive conversation comes from it. Sometimes you agree to disagree and move on. This was not one of those cases. Someone who is very passionate about this game was attacked on Twitter for being a fan. I'm not making this up. Being a fan. The logic is horse racing is struggling and we don't need fans. Guys, quick survey here. Matt, your first time at the track, when you were a kid, did you go to place a bet?
No.
JD, your first time at the track, did you go with the explicit purpose above all else of placing a bet when you were very young to go to the racetrack?
I'm going to say maybe, just to help your case.
Dude, you were like 4 years old, okay? Let's be real. Now, the point is, everybody that's been involved in racing, everybody that got introduced to this sport as a kid and fell in love with the game and calls themselves a racing ambassador or has a duty to the game, fell in love with the game as a fan first. They fell in love with the game as a fan first. They have gotten other people interested as fans, and some of those fans have gone on to become handicappers that keep the churn going, that stay involved in the sport, and that help raise awareness of some of the things that are going on in the game. To say we don't need fans is ignorant, is short-sighted, and shows intolerance. One of the things that we talked about on a number of shows last year was the need for racing to be inclusive. And obviously, we did a couple of shows and a couple of takes on the subject of race and horse racing, and that's part of it. We need to make sure that horse racing is a welcome place for everybody to take part in. And that goes for the type of fans, too. We need to be accessible to people. We need to open our doors and say, hey, come see what we're doing. Come enjoy a day at the races. People that do that, people that approach the sport that way, should not be ostracized, should not be criticized. They should be appreciated for the things that they do. I'm not going to dignify this person by saying the name. If you're watching, you're wrong. You were a terrible, terrible tweeter the other day, and you should feel terrible about having that opinion.
I have to do a tip in here, Andrew.
Sure.
The person that was attacked lives in a state that does not allow gambling of any sort. Obviously, that kind of tips off what state it is. That state still has 2 licensed racetracks and still runs races because people love the horses and horse racing. That's the end of the discussion. They can support the industry themselves in that state without pari-mutuel wagering.
This guy gets it, folks. Now, there's a lot going on as far as horse racing goes, as far as society goes here. I mean, take a look around. There's a lot going on. Be safe, be kind. Matt, as you mentioned so eloquently, try to keep living the dream. It's one of the things that you do and the things that you approach your work with that kind of attitude. You're one of the good ones in horse racing, and we were thrilled to have you on this show tonight. Have a great Saturday, man.
All right, you guys too. Thanks for having me. It is so much fun to be on here. If I was on here for 5 hours straight, we would keep talking. Have a great time.
We're going to need to hold you to that at some point. JD, do we have any Australia marathons coming up?
There can always be an Australia marathon, but we'll have to get our ducks in a row for that.
Quack, quack, quack. Yeah, by the way, if you haven't seen what I wrote about Matt Dinerman's ducks a couple of Saratoga meets ago, it's on my website. Just do a search. While Matt was out of town, some of the ducks came to life and took over parts of the racetrack and threatened to take over other racetracks unless they got souvenirs. So, yeah, had a little bit of fun with that. Anyway, Matt, thank you so much. Best of luck to everybody at Golden Gate Fields this weekend. There are going to be a lot of eyes on the product. Hopefully you guys have a great day, man. That'll about do it for this week's edition of Champagne and JD. We're really happy to be back after we took a week off last week for a number of unforeseen reasons, but we're back. We're here on YouTube. If you like what we do, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our weekly updates. For our special guest, Matt Dinerman, for my co-host, JD Fox, I'm Andrews Champagne. JD, hit him with the catchphrase, buddy.
Everybody stay safe and stay off the beaches. We'll catch you next time.
Take it easy, y'all.